uh, is much contaminated, and even the present pandemic COVID-19 problem is related to the overall pollution. And therefore, the mission to remove the pollution of the environment, which we humans created, is more important than ever. And if humankind wants to survive on this planet, we have to do all efforts to overcome the pollution. What are possible solutions? One possible solution is do yajnas, and especially the daily Agnihotra at sunrise and sunset, to help purify the environment. And whether it works, let us look at some results of research done in different colleges, universities, and research institutes over the last decades. One important note, when I use the term Agnihotra, I refer to a fire performed in a copper pyramid of fixed size and shape. You can see here, exactly this one. Then we used pure dried cow dung. We do not use any Havan Samakri. It is just pure cow dung, pure cow's ghee, and some grains of less polished uncooked rice. It's only 2 mantras in the morning, 2 in the evening, simple mantras, and we follow the exact time of sunrise and sunset, exact to the second. And now it has become very easy to follow Agnihotra timings, sunrise, sunset timings, because we have developed an app. It's called Agnihotra Body. It's free both for iPhones and Android phones, which gives you the exact time of sunrise and sunset for the place where you are. With just a few clicks, you find your location, and then you get the exact sunrise sunset time, because sunrise sunset time changes from place to place. So if you're in a big city, say Delhi, from east to west, there is a difference in sunrise sunset times of a couple of minutes even. So it is important to have the exact timing for Agnihotra. And now it's easy. And the procedure is very simple. You set the cow dung at fire. And so you start a couple of minutes before the Agnihotra time. And exactly at the time of Agnihotra, you add 2 portions of rice, to which we apply some ghee to the fire. The mantras, as I said, very simple mantras in the morning. Suryaya swaha, suryaya idam namama, prajapataye swaha, prajapataye idam namama. And after swaha, you add 1 portion of rice with ghee to the fire. So in the evening, it is Agnaye swaha, Agnaye idam namama, Prajapataye swaha, Prajapataye idam namama. What happens is, it is said a channel is created throughout all the atmosphere, and prana energy, life energy, which sits above the atmosphere, comes down through this channel to the Agnihotra pyramid, and is distributed in the area, and an aura energy field is created around all plants. This is why these plants get nutrition, they get disease resistant, and when the flame dies, the energy comes back and is collected in the Agnihotra ash. This is why the Agnihotra ash has healing properties. What are the benefits? According to traditional Vedic knowledge, all nature comes back to harmony when you perform Agnihotra. environment, atmosphere, soil, and water resources are all benefited. Also, biodiversity gets restored. In this way, food security can be maintained and human health improves, both physical and mental human health. Let us look at some of the effects. First, atmosphere. This is a very simple experiment. You take the microbial count in the air before Agnihotra and after Agnihotra. So you have a petri dish with some nutrient. You open for 10 minutes before Agnihotra, then you close it and send it for incubation. And the same thing you do after Agnihotra. And here you see two such samples before and two after Agnihotra. And it's obvious there's much, much less microbial contamination after Agnihotra. And this is only after one Agnihotra. So only one Agnihotra has this effect. Of course, if you do at a place Agnihotra regularly, and we are supposed to do it regularly, daily, morning, evening, then it will come down even more. This experiment was done in number of places. Here's just one. It was done at Palampur Agricultural University. It was published. There are more publications also. If you want to know, I can tell you. Then another experiment was done on the chemical. So the first was on the biological pollution of the atmosphere. Now about chemical and physical pollution. This experiment was done in Vikram University in Ujjain and also in North Maharashtra University in Jalgaon. So what we were looking for is SOx, NOx, and the particulate matter. So the chemical pollution as well as the physical pollution. And we have seen that SOx, NOx, they went up a little bit, and then after some time, they went down. So in the end, first some some smoke is produced, and this is also why the particulate matter goes up a little bit, but then in the end it goes down by 30 to 40%. And again, that is only one Agnihotra. Some people said, because this experiment was done in the evening, some people said, okay, maybe in the night, automatically these particles settle down to the ground, so they get reduced. And it's not because of Agnihotra. So we did the same experiment from for morning Agnihotra and measured from morning to evening, and the same thing happened. Reduction of 30 to 40% of SOx, NOx, and particulate matter. We want to do this experiment. Actually, we had started at Niri in Nagpur to do the experiment over a certain time. And what we wanted to do is we created artificially some pollution in the atmosphere comparable to daily air pollution in winter. And then we performed Agnihotra. And the preliminary result showed that Agnihotra reduces all these chemical pollution and the particulate matter to quite some extent. And then we wanted to do it for 1 week, but this was in 2020 and in March. And then the Corona restrictions came and I had to get out of India. So we could not continue this experiment, but hopefully we can do this sometime soon when I'm back, to see what happens if in a situation like daily air pollution in winter, if you perform Agnihotra regularly. And maybe we'll do it in Delhi itself, so we don't have to create this polluted atmosphere, because there it is already freely available. What are the effects on water? That is a simple experiment done some time ago in Pune by Dr. Girish Patade and Prana Abang, who, by the way, with Agnihotra experiments, now he had finished his PhD on Agnihotra. That's the first PhD, as far as I know, on scientific aspects of Agnihotra. What he did is, they took raw water from some polluted river in Pune and put some Agnihotra ash in a glass cylinder, poured the polluted water through this column of Agnihotra ash, and measured the water quality before and after. And you see here all the parameters of water quality were improved, especially very obvious the biological contamination with bacteria that came down by more than 90%. Just by pouring this water through a column of Agnihotra ash, very bad quality water became even drinking quality water. Another effect was on a bore well. Some friends in Australia had a farm, still have a farm, and Australia, now they have a lot of rains, but normally it's very dry comparable to Rajasthan. And so water is very important. So they drilled the bore well, and they found water, which was lucky enough, but this water was highly saline and alkaline. So it couldn't be used. pH was 9.5. It is just, you can't give it to plants, forget about drinking. So what they did is they performed Agnihotra next to the bore well and added Agnihotra ash to the bore well once in a week. And after 6 months, pH came down from 9.5 to 7.2, and salinity came down from 1150 ppm to 720 ppm. So now it was within the range of World Health Organization for drinking water. So these were results from experimental level, but even on a larger level, we have seen a big effect of Agnihotra and other homas, which we do at a place in Maheshwar, which is in MP, close to Indore, at the banks of the Narmada River. And they had certain research stations and studied the quality of the water. And 2 of the research stations were upstream from our Homa place, and 2 research stations were downstream. And here you see the water quality, and the water quality of the research stations upstream were worse than Homa therapy, and again downstream the same thing. For example, coliform count, WHO allows maximum 100, and we have 100 in the Homa therapy place, but 500 to 700 at the other places. But also total solids, total hardness, chlorides, nitrates, sulfate, all the parameters are best at the Homa therapy place. That means this Agnihotra, when it's done regularly, then it has a large effect also on such a large water body like the Narmada River, which is quite wide at this place already. Effects on soil. Soil, now recently it has come more to the public interest. Before, people didn't think much on soil, but there's a Sanskrit text written more than 3,000 years ago, and that says, upon this handful of soil, our survival depends. Husband it and it will grow our food, our fuel, and our shelter, and surround us with beauty. Abuse it, and the soil will collapse and die, taking humanity with it. Now, according to information from the FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, they say about 1/3 of the world's soil has already been degraded compared to with 1960. And further, they say, unless new approaches are adopted, the global amount of arable and productive land per person in 2050 will be only a quarter of the level in 1960. And that means it will just not be enough to feed this growing number of people. So what do we have to do? The soil has to be rejuvenated from the level of microorganisms, viruses, bacteria, fungi, algae, and so on, so that a healthy microflora and microfauna is created. And we have seen some examples. We have seen the beneficial soil microbes grow if you add Agnihotra ash or in Homa atmosphere, and harmful microbes are controlled. For example, phosphorus. You know, phosphorus is one of the 3 main nutrients which conventional farmers use. It's always NPK, and nitrogen, phosphorus, potash, kalium. And but phosphorus is abundantly there in the soil, only it's not available to the plants because it's there in a non-water soluble form. Now, what they've seen is if you add Agnihotra ash to the soil, then the water soluble percentage of phosphorus increases. This is an experiment they did long time ago in US and more recently in Germany also. The question arose, okay, how come that this phosphorus becomes more water soluble by adding Agnihotra ash? One hypothesis was there are some bacteria which make phosphorus water soluble. Now, this hypothesis has been confirmed by an experiment done in Ratnagiri, and they found that phosphorus solubilizing bacteria have increased 1,000 times. By the way, also nitrogen fixing bacteria have increased 100 times. So we have the N and the P of the NPK formula. And at the same time, fungal flora was controlled. Another experiment was done by Dr. Ram at the ICAR Institute, Central Institute of Subtropical Horticulture in Lucknow. And if you add Agnihotra ash, you know, the harmful fungi, there was no growth. And what they also did is they compared with control ash. Control ash is ash which you get from burning the same substances, because we want to see it is actually Agnihotra. It is not just burning cow dung and ghee. So what we use is we use cow dung, some ghee, even some grains of rice, and we burn that in some copper vessel, but not the pyramid shape which we have here, which we use for Agnihotra, but some some other copper vessel. Actually, what we do is we use we take such a copper Agnihotra vessel and with a hammer destroy the pyramid shape. So it is similar size, same copper, and we don't for producing control ash. We don't use the Agnihotra time, sunset, sunrise, sunset. And we don't use mantra. Otherwise, we burn the same substances. And this ash has different properties. It does not have the healing properties of Agnihotra ash. So another experiment they did at the same institute is they examined the beneficial bacteria. And again, you see with Agnihotra ash, these bacteria multiply. Another important point is sodic soil and acidic soil. We have a lot of area in India, in other places also, but also in India, very big problem, either sodic soil or acidic soil. One experiment that was done at a KVK in Unnao, which is between Lucknow and Kanpur, the soil had a pH of 9.86. What they did is they had made three plots. One, they did conventional farming. One, they did organic farming using vermicompost. And the third was organic farming, also with vermicompost plus Agnihotra ash. And with conventional farming, nothing happened, same pH. With organic farming using vermicompost, the pH came down by little less than 1 point, so it was already quite a good result. But with organic farming and Agnihotra ash, pH came down by more than 2 points in just one season. So that really helped to make this soil productive again. And so don't think that Agnihotra ash reduces the pH. You know, we had one farm in Poland, it was highly acidic. The pH was 4.4, and the agriculture engineer who came there to check the situation, he advised these people not to start any farming or gardening because the soil quality is too bad. You would need some truckloads of lime in order to neutralize the pH. So they didn't have the money for that. So they just continued, used Agnihotra ash, and of course performed all the fires. And they had wonderful results, and everything can be grown, which no other farmer can grow there, including tomatoes, which is more difficult there to grow. And as we have hundreds of millions of hectares of either sodic or acidic soil just in India, you know, it would be really good to make some tests on a farm level to see how Agnihotra and Agnihotra ash can help to neutralize the pH of the soil so that more land can be made productive. Now, one aspect is the climate change. Often we hear, okay, you perform Agnihotra and you say that's good for the environment. But Agnihotra, like any other combustion, produces CO2. And CO2 is seen as the main culprit of global warming. So what is the answer to that? Yes, you perform Agnihotra and some CO2 is produced. Not much, because for Agnihotra, only small quantities of cow dung, ghee, and rice are used. Still, some CO2 is produced. But first thing is Agnihotra increases the plant growth, and that means carbon from the atmosphere is stored in the plant. So this carbon is again taken out from the atmosphere. And on top of that, a lot of carbon is stored in the soil in Homa atmosphere. We have measured SOC, soil organic carbon, in Homa farms and found more than 12% SOC in these soils. And this is quite exceptional. That is really, these are high values. And if we could turn more agricultural area from conventional farming to Homa organic farming, we could not only stop a further rise of CO2 in the atmosphere, but we could even reduce the present level. So these are some results which I wanted to share. Now let's have one look at the explanation. How does Agnihotra work? What are the underlying mechanisms? And for that, we have to go back again to Vedic knowledge, where they talk about prana energy. Modern science has not yet found this prana energy, has not yet found a method to measure it. But we have done some experiments which at least show there must be something like that. So what was this experiment? And one more remark. Often when people talk about the effects of Agnihotra, they say, okay, that is because of the gases produced. Okay, these gases definitely have some effect. Also, the presentation of Dr. Bram Dud showed that these particles produced in Agnihotra, the Agnihotra which he examined, it's different from what I'm talking about. But these particles, they have some beneficial effect. So yes, the fumes of Agnihotra have some effect, but that's not the whole mechanism of how Agnihotra works. For example, we see Agnihotra ash purifies water, but also if you keep water next to Agnihotra, it will get purified. So you keep water in some container next to Agnihotra, it gets purified. So you could say the fumes of Agnihotra, they get into this container and helps to purify the water. Yes, maybe. But also if you then close this container, still water gets purified. And that is quite interesting, because then it cannot be the fumes of Agnihotra and you don't add Agnihotra ash. So it can't be a chemical process. Now, the question is, if it's not a chemical process, it must be the energy field of Agnihotra which has this effect. Which kind of energy is it? We did one experiment. We put water samples which were in bottles. Some of these bottles were next to Agnihotra. You see here the arrangement. Some of these bottles were next to Agnihotra in closed classes. And then we put some of these glass jars into metal containers. So the water was not directly in the metal container. It was, we used the same glass jars, put them in the container, and we also put some insulation in between, so there was no direct contact between the metal container and the water bottles. And then we performed Agnihotra, and we kept these water bottles with and without metal containers for 5 days in the Agnihotra room. And there we performed Agnihotra daily, morning, evening. And then we measured the quality. And we had some water bottles also in the lab from the beginning. And we compared. So we had, for example, a reduction of coliform bacteria of 69%. You know, all the bottles which were in the Agnihotra environment after 5 days, 69% less coliform bacteria as compared to the lab. Then we compared, okay, what is it with the water bottles which were kept in stainless steel containers? It was -68, copper -69, aluminum minus 70. So you could say the average, you know, all the the samples which were kept in metal containers, minus 69, and the glass containers also minus 69. There was no difference, no significant difference. Also the other values, no significant difference between the water samples which was kept in these metal containers and the water bottles which were kept just in glass jars. And these metal containers, they act as Faraday cage. That means electromagnetic waves don't go through. Yes, somebody could say high energy radiation goes through this metal containers, also like X-rays and so on. That's true. But we have measured whether such high energy radiation happens when you do Agnihotra, and there's none. So it has to be something beyond the electromagnetic range, some energy field beyond electromagnetic range. What kind of energy is that? And this may be the prana energy, which is mentioned in Vedic text. Now, that is a big challenge for modern science of physics. What is this kind of prana energy? How can we measure it? And this is still work in progress. And that also means that understanding how Agnihotra works, it's not just an application of modern science, but also it will lead to a further development of modern science. It is necessary in order to understand the Agnihotra process to develop modern science further. And anyway, science is not a fixed body of knowledge. It is a never-ending process of striving for truth. Now let's look at another experiment regarding subtle energies. We had distilled waters in 10 bottles. 5 we kept in the lab, 5 we kept in Agnihotra room, again for 5 days. So it was just distilled water. And then after 5 days, we took the bottles, the water samples from Agnihotra room back to the lab. And then we added the same quantity of E. coli bacteria to all the 10 water bottles. And the bacteria developed very differently. So you see here, the blue bars show the development of bacteria in the water samples which were kept in the lab, and the red bars show the development of E. coli bacteria in the water which was kept in Agnihotra atmosphere. And you see after 5 days, the bacteria in the Agnihotra water was still less than the bacteria in the lab water on the first day. And of course, on the 5th day in the lab, the value was much, much, much higher. So you see, there must be some, the chemical composition of water will not have changed. It's just H2O. But there must be some more subtle effect on the water by performing Agnihotra. And as a conclusion, I want to say that Agnihotra is a basic tool to come back to a Vedic lifestyle. And Agnihotra or Yajna is the first step of fivefold path. Fivefold path is just, you know, in a short form, Satya, Sanaatana, Dharma. And the other steps are dana, tapa, karma, and svadhyaya. And this fivefold path is a simple but very comprehensive guideline for people from our modern time to get back to a Vedic lifestyle, to Satya, Sanaatana, Dharma for our present time. And this is what we have to do if we want a future for mankind on this planet. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ulrich. Prabhu sir,
Ulrich, we are so happy that you have spent your life.
Prabhu sir, your voice is breaking. Could you please reboot?
okay. Meanwhile, shall we take up some questions?
Yeah, I'm just trying to thank Ulrich for accepting our invitation and delivering the lecture and giving us tremendous valuable information. Thank you, Ulrich. We'll keep in touch with you for many other occasions.
Yeah, and in fact, now let us thank Prabhu Garu also.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Ulrich and for the profound work he has done his whole life. That's all.
We heard. And also we'll thank you, Prabhu Garu, for inviting these two speakers and introducing to the research topics which are now going to be in progress. Now let us have one or two questions. Already have time. And Sugnan Vemuri.
Yeah, good morning to everyone. My question is to Dr. Ulrich. See, one thing, in the initial experimentation, it was found that by adding the Agnihotra ash, the phosphorus solubilization was more. Whereas at the end, in some other experiment, when E. coli was added to that particular water, where even the Agnihotra fumes were passed through, the E. coli, the bacterial propagation was not much, whereas in the normal water it was much more. How that contradictory behavior of the growth of the bacteria taking place?
Yeah, that is a very good question. And this is exactly what happens if you add Agnihotra ash to water, to soil, or even if you perform Agnihotra. Agnihotra does not just push nature in one direction. It brings nature back to harmony. And bacteria which are harmful, they are getting reduced. Beneficial bacteria, they get enhanced. And in order to make the situation even more complicated, the same bacteria may be harmful in one environment and may be quite beneficial in other environment. So then also they react in a different way. How that, it looks like that Agnihotra ash has some intelligence. How exactly that works, that is still, it's a very interesting question, but still unanswered. But we are planning some experiments to find out exactly how that works.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Any other question? Why this Agnihotra is done in the morning and evening times? Some question is there.
Yeah, there is some traditional knowledge which says that at the time of sunrise, a flood of subtle energies comes from the sun to the place on the planet where the sun appears to rise. It says appears to rise, not where it rises, because we know it's just an appearance. Sun does not really rise or set. And they say this flood of energies has a subtle music in it. And the quintessential sound of that music corresponds to the mantra which we utter at that time. Therefore, we have kind of resonance effect. And that's a sunset. This flood of energy is going back again. And it's interesting that some American astrophysicist, he said the same thing. He said that a million ampere voltage is coming from the sun at sunrise, and at sunset it's expelled again. So that's confirmed by modern science also. So these are very, very special moments for the for all life on planet Earth, and also all life, changes. For example, in the sea, some algae come up at sunrise, other algae are going down at sunrise. The life of animals changes. For example, we have seen in many places that birds come for morning Agnihotra at sunrise. Now you could say, oh, how do birds know when it's time of sunrise? It was observed, for example, in New York on a high-rise building on a 50th floor. The birds came regularly for sunrise. And no, they don't have this Agnihotra body app to see when it's sunrise, but all nature changes at the time of sunrise. Only we humans, we are not so much in contact with nature anymore because of our unnatural lifestyle. We have lights, so people don't even know exactly when the sun rises and sets. But animals do. So there's a big change in all nature at sunrise and sunset. And in that moment, if you perform this fire, then it has a very, very big effect. And so this is also why this Agnihotra sunrise sunset is the basis for all other yajnas which we do, like the Trambakam yajna and so on and so on.
Okay, thank you. Gautamji?
Sir, namaskar, sir. My question is actually from modern physics, modern physics perspective. That modern physics only understood about interactions, gravitation, electromagnetic, strong and weak interactions. But this pranic energy that you quoted, or even the phenomenon of life itself, something more is there, which from even physics perspective also, it should be detected from the point of view of physics. That some other interaction is there, otherwise this prana, means life, would not have existed. So that I think time has come, as you told, that this Agnihotra research and so on, this will contribute to the advancement of physics as well. Science as well as physics.
Yes, yes, exactly. So we have to get physicists interested in the subject. And anyway, if there is some phenomenon like what we have shown, there is an effect of Agnihotra energy field on water. And it cannot be electromagnetic, because electromagnetic energy field was excluded by having this Faraday cage. But the effect is there, and we have replicated this experiment, so it's very well established. So there must be some other kind of energy. And now it would be the task of a physicist to explain, because this is why scientists are here to explain what happens. So that is some task for them now, to explain, to find ways to measure that, and to explain what it is. The same thing with the effect of Agnihotra on water. You have water in Agnihotra atmosphere, and then you add E. coli bacteria, and the growth of these bacteria is reduced. Although the water, the chemical analysis will be the same. There must be something. Yes, that means, this Vedic knowledge is really vast, and modern science, has understood this much, a little tiny bit, and so much more has to be found out. So that should also be an encouragement to modern physicists and modern scientists to go into more research. And I'm happy that slowly, things began to move. You know, at the beginning, it was very difficult. I talked to so many scientists, went to so many universities, and the reaction was very, yeah, it was people ridiculed me. Yeah. They said, you know, what is this Vedic knowledge? Okay, that is, you know, of the forefathers. My grandmother also did some such strange things, but they didn't take it serious. So it took some time till we got the first experiment. And then when we showed, okay, this has been done and you see the experiment, then it was easier. But still now, some scientists think, oh, it can't be. So they don't do an experiment and show it that it's not possible. But anyway, that was one interesting story in Palampur Agricultural University. At that time, the vice chancellor was one Dr. Ratore, and he heard about Agnihotra in some presentation from a friend in India. And he went out of the room because he said, it is just ridiculous. You know, that's not science. That is just, you know, some old stories. So some of the professors told him, okay, you want to be a scientist. You can't just say it's not possible. You have to prove it doesn't work. And then he took the challenge and said, okay, let's prove it doesn't work. So he allowed at his university to do some experiments with Homa farming. And then, you know, the outcome was it did work. So he was very much surprised, but then he was scientist enough to acknowledge, yes, Homa farming works. So, you know, and that is the approach of a scientist. He doesn't have to believe us, you know. Even as a scientist, you shouldn't believe anything. You should find out yourself. But you should be open to find out yourself. You should not just say, no, it can't work. Yeah. And in this way, science can also make progress, get further, and we come to understand better. So,
Nice.
but now we are on a good way. Now it's easier to find people who are really interested.
Thank you.
Okay. I think now we are past that time. If there are no other questions, let us thank on behalf of Veda Samskruti Samiti and all participants of Sanaatana Dharma course, the speakers, Ulrich Berk, who accepted he is now in Germany. His timing is early morning, In fact, he preferred to join a little late because his time is around 3 o'clock in the morning at Germany. So we heartfully thank you, sir, for sparing your time and sharing your research results with all of us. We look forward for interacting with you more, and also we thank Dr. Arya. He's I think has logged out. On behalf of Veda Samskruti Samiti and the President, H.P. Rao Garu, and all Executive Committee, thank you very much. Let us have now Prarthana and Janaganamana. Please stay back. Let's have Prarthana. Sundaraji.
Mahodaya. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu. Om Sarvesham Santir Bhavatu. Om Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu. Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै सत्यं वद धर्मं चर सर्वे जनाः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः
धन्यवाद.
धन्यवादः
Acha, now, CC Babu Garu, let's have Janagana Mana. Let's all stand up. Request all of you to mute and then sing the national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंधु गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उज्ज्वल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तब जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे जय हे जय